Morning, everyone. So we're going to talk by-elections today. There's a by-election today. Actually, there's two by-elections today. There's one in Tamworth that was caused by Chris Pincher doing a bit too much pinching. And then there's the other one in mid-Bedfordshire caused by Nadine Dorries throwing a strop. So, and actually, you could argue that Nadine Dorries may have screwed the Conservatives over by delaying her resignation as long as possible, because it's given Labour more time to go at this. In terms of, I want to talk about in terms of what's likely to happen, because it is quite strange. Tamworth, I am going to suggest Labour are winning that all day long. So Labour's internal polling would appear, you have to be a little bit careful with Labour's internal polling, because you can sort of look at it and go, okay, fine. Have they massaged it for any particular purposes or anything like that? But no, I think Labour's internal polling shows that they're going to win Tamworth today. That's, Selby-like comfort. The language Labour are using is exactly the same as they used with Selby, where they actually smashed it with over 4,000 votes extra in a by-election. The book is, you can get no odds on Labour. I'm looking here, Labour 1 to 5. So for every fiver you bet, you'll get a quid profit. That's nothing. It's not even worth putting a bet on that. So basically, Labour are winning Tamworth. Now, before we come on to mid-Bedfordshire, let's consider what may happen with Rishi Sunak here. Because what we're thinking, like these by-elections, remember, it's like any by-election. They don't actually change anything. The numbers aren't tight in Parliament. Rishi Sunak still got a majority, still got a sizable majority. He's still got a majority bigger than technically his rebels. He's still fine in theory, or at least he's no worse off. The issue with the by-elections is, can we put pressure on the Tories to do something incredibly stupid? It reminds me of back in 2019. Boris Johnson had just become the Prime Minister. Dominic Cummings was his chief political advisor. And, it was like, but Boris Johnson couldn't get anything done. He didn't have a majority. He couldn't get anything done. And Dominic Cummings was basically telling people to calm down because the opposition would do something stupid. And then they did. So it's a similar thing here. How can we make the Tories do something stupid? Would losing Tamworth be enough? I've seen some suggestions that some Tory MPs think it would. And that is on the basis that there is... See, I keep looking at the situation and thinking, well, the Tories are going to lose, right? So surely what they want from Sunak is to limit the damage. That's what they want from him, isn't it? But no, there are some Conservative MPs who, at the time he was made leader, thought, no, we want Rishi Sunak to win us the election. And there are still some now who think, no, his job is to win us the election, not just limit the damage. So if he is going to win the next election, it's really simple. He has to win the vast majority of the seats that they won in 2019. They're not going to win new seats. They can't really target... Actually, ironically, they can target a couple of new seats in Scotland if the SNP keep falling away. But generally speaking, they can't really target new seats. They have to hold on to the seats they've got. So Tamworth is the sort of seat they need to be able to hold on to, because they won it with a very large majority at the last election. It's not a super safe Tory seat. It's a bit of a bellwether seat. It can and has in the past gone to Labour when they've been in the ascendancy. But it's the sort of seat Sunak has to be able to hold if he's going to win the next election. So just losing Tamworth could get some Tory MPs to think this isn't good enough and either put pressure on Sunak or even put confidence letters in. Because this time next week, Rishi Sunak can face confidence votes under the normal rules, because he'll have been part next Wednesday, next Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember exactly when. I think next Wednesday, he'll have been party leader for a year. And I'm telling you, Labour are going to win Tamworth. It's not even worth betting on it. They're going to win Tamworth, right? The question is, for most Tory MPs, is it already priced in? Do they already recognise they're going to lose Tamworth? Is it already priced in? In which case, is the real battleground mid-Bedfordshire? Which is... right, let's go through a few comments before I discuss mid-Bedfordshire, because that's the really, really messy one. You say, I think mid Bedfordshire will entirely depend on Tory turnout. Oh, absolutely, it will. On 100%. Like mid Bedfordshire is one of the safest Tory seats in the country. Come the general election, the Tories are winning mid Bedfordshire. No question about it. The question's about the by-election. And yes, it will absolutely come down to Tory turnout. There is zero doubt about that. But anyway, as the other ones, you say Tories are going to win mid Bedfordshire. No, do not be too sure. Do not be too sure. If the Tories cling on in mid Bedfordshire, will annoy Nads. I actually don't know what will annoy Nads at the moment. I'll tell you what will annoy Nads. Her book's coming out. Remember, her book I think now is slated for next month. If it gets like Matt Hancock level of no sales, then that'll annoy her. Steve Kirk, £10 super chat. Thank you very much there. Amazing how Sunak goes away on by-election days. Yes. So, yeah, that's worth pointing out. The last trio of by-elections, it was a trio, wasn't it? Yes, Lib Dems won one, Labour won one, the Conservatives won one. It was all very fair and balanced. Well, as in, they evened themselves out. It wasn't a very fair campaign. But Sunak was completely hiding on polling day, nowhere to be seen, not even on Twitter, nothing from him. And that's because he knows he's not an electoral asset, right? And he did that in the local elections as well. He'll visit these places 2 weeks before the election and then stays away from them because he's not an asset. And that's pretty grim because when you look at the general election coming, either he's got to get himself out and about, in which case, why isn't he practicing now? Or he'll hide away and make things even worse. So, yes. And this, he's obviously hiding today because he's over in Israel, except this time he will be tweeting, or whoever's in charge of his tweets will be tweeting. He'll be trying to look the grand statesman whilst achieving absolutely bog all. I think we can trust him not to make things worse, though, so it should be okay. But yeah, he's certainly not going to be campaigning in Tamworth and mid Bedfordshire today. Now, in terms of mid Bedfordshire, you say Tories in mid Bedfordshire staying home this time around. A lot of them will be, yes. But it comes back to that statement, is it enough? Now, here's what I will say about mid Bedfordshire. At the moment, Labour would win it. I am confident Labour would win it. But, and I'm not having a massive go at the Lib Dems here, but I'm going to have a little bit of a go tomorrow if the results are what I think they are. The problem with mid Bedfordshire is it is a complete three-way battle. Now, there's lots of people going, this is ridiculous. Who is the main challenger? The other one should step aside, as they have been doing in every other by-election over the last couple of years. And it is odd. I really don't know what the answer is. What I would say is this. The Lib Dems insist that it's a really close battle and that they're really challenging. Labour's internal polling says they are not. Now, if the Lib Dems disagree with that, because you might think, well, Labour might have massaged their internal polling. Okay. If the Lib Dems think that they have a real chance in mid Bedfordshire, why haven't they published their own internal polling? Because if you're someone in mid Bedfordshire, now I don't know what an average by-election voter in mid Bedfordshire is thinking. Of course, I don't live in mid Bedfordshire. But let's say you're a voter in mid Bedfordshire who's going to vote in this by-election, that you're prepared to vote tactically to get rid of the Tories, and you are reasonably turned on to politics, so you try and follow things, right? All you can see is Labour's internal polling saying that they are going to win, or that they are the best place to win, shall we say. That Labour's internal polling, I'm not going to show you this, I will tomorrow on my own channel if it turns out to be any way accurate, but you can never be too certain, so I don't want to get people excited. It has Labour and the Conservatives on roughly 30% each, and it has the Liberal Democrats on 21%. Now, that's Labour's internal polling. That's the Lib Dems miles away, right? We will see tomorrow. But if you're someone in there, so you can see things like that and go, well, Labour then, or the obvious tactical vote, then you can look at the betting. I often say, if you're not sure who the tactical vote is, go to the bookies, look at the betting odds and see who is the shortest odds that's not the Conservative candidate. So if you look at that, so the Conservatives are on 5 to 6, so they are the odds-on favourite, right? Then Labour on 13 to 8. Now, those odds have lengthened over the course of this week. They used to be, they were much shorter. They've although I noticed they've shortened a bit today compared to last night. But Labour on 13 to 8 and the Liberal Democrats on 9 to 2, right? So the Liberal Democrats, in terms of the betting odds, nowhere. In terms of Labour's internal polling, nowhere. What are you to conclude? You're to conclude that the Liberal Democrats is not the tactical voting bet. If the Lib Dems think differently, they should publish their polling, and they haven't done. Mark Stone, £5 super chat. Thank you very much. So let's go through some more comments before I go over what the implications, therefore, will be for tomorrow. Patrick saying, take nothing for granted in Tamworth. If you're voting in Tamworth, get out there and vote. Oh, absolutely. Anyone involved, it's like I always say, anyone involved in the process, you can't sit back. I always say it's a bit, for me, it's a bit like watching your team being like 5-0 up or something. I can sit back in the crowd and go, yeah, we've got this. The players on the pitch can't. They've got to keep working, right? So it's the same. Not only Labour activists and the candidates and the staffers, but also the voters who want to get out of the Tories. Absolutely do not think, oh, I don't need to go along and vote then because, if people think that, then that's what turns it wrong. Remember, we're not talking about Labour winning by a massive majority in Tamworth, although it'd be hilarious if they did, and they might. But we can't know that. It's possible. I actually think there's a good chance that Labour could win by a big margin, but you can't think that if you're in Tamworth. So absolutely, if you're in Tamworth, don't forget your photo ID. And don't forget to go and vote. But yeah, the consequences tomorrow. If Rishi Sunak loses Mid Bedfordshire, the problem then is, yes, Tories will understand that they're not going to lose Mid Bedfordshire in the general election, but there's like 200 Tory MPs. In fact, do you know what? There's 300 Tory MPs in seats that are less safe than Mid Bedfordshire. That's the problem they've got. There's over, Mid Bedfordshire, I believe I'm right. And so I saw someone say it's their 33rd safest seat. And they've got like 350 MPs. It's very difficult to tell how many MPs they've got at any one time, actually, because they keep losing them. There'll be another 2 by-elections coming up in the new year. But if he loses Mid Bedfordshire, there's like 300 other MPs going, okay, you might get Mid Bedfordshire back in the general election, but my seat's way more vulnerable than that. And at that point, we could actually be talking serious talk of trying to get rid of Sunak. The question will always be, of course, who do they get rid of him for? Who do they get rid of him for? If we have a little look at the betting odds, Kemi Badnoch is the favourite. Penny Mordaunt next, although I'm not sure I see that. Then James Cleverly, if you'll believe that. Suella Braverman's actually got much longer odds than I think will be the case, but it is what it is. But there we go. Ray Harvey, £5 super chat. Thank you very much there. One thing I always loved about the election in the UK was the photos. Back to the polls, all the doggies, like the one in the back. Yes, dogs at a polling station is always really good. Hate the must takeover of Twitter. Yes, you and me alike. Length and shorten. I have no idea what it means. So longer odds means that you get more money back if you put a stake on. So it means the bookies think they're less likely to win. Shorter odds means it's you're getting less money for your stake. So when we talk about, so I mean, the way you could do it, if you don't actually know, don't actually bet. I'm putting a little bet on, but I don't bet a lot. Don't actually bet. But if you're not sure on booking odds, you just go onto a website and you just click on one and you put like £10 in your stake, see how much you'd get back, and then do that for the ones you're thinking of voting for. Whichever one would give you the least amount is the one you vote for, because it means the bookies think that they've got the best chance. That's why they don't want to offer you too much. Kemi Culture Wars will be frightening. Well, if I go down that list again, who's not frightening? So Kemi Badnoch, in all honesty, we don't really know enough about her, right? We know that, yes, she's one of the culture warriors, right? We also know that she can be a little bit pragmatic, but she's not very experienced. So she's like, I think she's a lot like Rishi Sunak. I don't think she knows much about politics, you know. So she'd be quite, she wouldn't be the worst choice. Because if you look at these, like Penny Mordaunt, actually, Penny Mordaunt, if you're not a Tory, is probably the best option because she's not personally all that inclined to go with the culture wars. I don't think I don't think any change of leader would fundamentally change the direction of the Tories because Rishi Sunak is not leading the Conservative Party. So changing him wouldn't change anything, which is why I'd be mad to change it. One reason why I'd be mad to change him, there's like several. But Penny Mordaunt would probably be the least offensive, but she's utterly shit. James Cleverly, like, again, he's not the worst of them, but he's not a smart operator. You know, Suella Braverman is just absolutely insane. She's like Liz Truss levels of insane. Only with Liz Truss, her insanity was mostly around economic issues. Suella Braverman's mostly around social issues, but she's as insane as Liz Truss. And this is why I find it really difficult to believe that the Tories will get rid of Sunak, even if he loses both by-elections, even though it could be in the frame. Because can they risk? I'm going to say this. If Suella Braverman ends up as the last two that go to the members, because I think it will go to the members again, although I can't be certain. If she's like, the members will vote for the craziest option, right? After they've been out of power for a few years, they may decide to get serious about their leader again. But at the moment, they're still taking things for granted. They will vote for the craziest option. Suella Braverman, if she ends up on the ballot to members, I can't see anyone on this list that's crazier than her that the members would go. The only one, actually, Kemi Badenoch might be the lesser of evils. It might be that the members decide that Kemi Badenoch might be worth going for over Braverman. I don't see Penny Mordaunt beating Braverman. I don't see James Cleverly. Who else is on this list? Jeremy Hunt, behave yourself. Actually, Liz Truss herself wants another crack at it. That'd be an interesting one, wouldn't it? Can you imagine being a vaguely sensible Tory MP and the final ballot ends up with Liz Truss and Suella Braverman going to the members? You'd just give up at that point, wouldn't you? You would just give up. LGBT community would be terrified of Kemi. Frank, again, like I said, there's no leader of the Conservatives possible. The Conservative Party are not being led. None of these others are leaders. So the Conservative Party will just be as it is. All they'll do by trying to replace Sunak, all they'll be hoping to do is, because like when Rishi Sunak became leader, his credibility was quite high. It was quite high. It was still below Starmer's, but only slightly below Starmer's. Now it's way below Starmer's. So you can, you know, if Tories do get rid of him, the thinking, I think, will be that they will think, right, get someone in. Their credibility will start high because people will give them a chance. Then go to the election in May. So get someone in 6 months. They can't cock it up in 6 months. Blame Rishi Sunak for everything, just like Rishi Sunak blamed Liz Truss for everything. Blame Rishi Sunak for everything. Go to the polls in May. So I can sort of see that. I don't think it will work because I think the Tories will look like complete clowns if they go for a fourth leader inside one parliament when they've got a large majority. They will look like utter clowns. If a confidence vote in Rishi Sunak is triggered, Labour Party HQ will be popping champagne, I'll tell you. There will be some champagne socialists about in there. Because even if Sunak wins, he'll be fatally wounded. And if he loses, the Tories will just descend into like utter chaos. Utter chaos. James Cleverly is the least worst option, says a lot about how far the Tories have fallen. Yeah, there is no one here. Like if I go down this list, bear in mind betting odds are not probabilities because they, you know, vote like betting behaviour changes betting odds. But Kemi Badenoch, 7-2, favourite. Penny Mordaunt, 5-1, so much longer odds. James Cleverly 7-1, Swella Braverman 17-2, Boris Johnson 9-1. Like, bear in mind, this is the next Conservative leader. They'll be thinking, in theory, Boris Johnson could stand at the next election, become an MP and become leader again. So they're not thinking of if there were to be another leadership contest before the election. Jeremy Hunt 9-1. Gillian Keegan, well effing done Gillian Keegan 10-1. Ben Wallace is ridiculous 11-1. He's not even standing at the next election. So, of course, he wouldn't stand to be, even if there was to be a leadership contest now while he's still an MP, he wouldn't stand. So you might as well give him odds of 500-1. Nadeem Zahawi, 14-1. No chance. He's recently been found to be a tax cheat. They're not going to back him. Steve Barclay, 14-1. Don't know. He's lazy, though, isn't he? He'd be no use for them. Brandon Lewis, 14-1. Again, he's gone a bit quiet lately, hasn't he? Pretty Patel, 16-1. Like, you go down this list and you just think, you've got to go down to Michael Gove, 33-1, before you get to anyone credible. It's madness, utter madness. Why am I talking about yesterday's MP? Supposed to be talking about by-elections. Yes, I was trying to explain what was going to happen. As the importance of the by-elections is what happens afterwards, because it doesn't change the parliamentary arithmetic. What happens is it changes the parliamentary mood. So I am suggesting if Labour win mid-Bedfordshire tomorrow, one of two things. If Labour win mid-Bedfordshire, then Rishi Sunak comes under massive pressure and there could actually be a confidence vote. If the Tories win mid-Bedfordshire by a narrow margin over Labour and the Lib Dems are way behind, then the Lib Dems come under pressure because they have gifted Rishi Sunak a boost. That's the consequence of the by-elections today. If Labour narrowly miss out on mid-Bedfordshire and the Lib Dems, as I strongly believe, are well behind, the Lib Dems are going to be blamed for giving the Tories a boost. And that will create massive problems for the Lib Dems. There will be bitter recriminations, and the Lib Dems themselves will suffer because come the general election, in order for them to maximize their seats, they need tactical voting in their favor, just like Labour do. But the Lib Dems, the problem is, if the Lib Dems in a particular seat, say, we are the natural challengers to the Conservatives, and the local Labour Party says, no, we are, people will not know what to think, because it'll be like, well, you messed up in mid-Bedfordshire. How do we know you're not messing up here? And the Lib Dems, if they mess this up, we'll see on the results tomorrow, but I strongly suspect, I'm 80% certain, I won't put it more than that, I'm 80% certain the Lib Dems have messed up here, but we will see. If they have, they're going to risk some of their target seats because people won't believe them. They won't believe them if they say they're the natural challengers, because it's like, oh yeah, like you said, in mid-Bedfordshire. So they've done themselves no favour. Whereas you could argue the same thing won't happen with Labour, because Labour haven't screwed Lib Dems over. So Lib Dem tactical voters will vote for Labour. And also, like, just normal people who aren't like partisan at all but want to vote tactically, they will know that Labour are the natural vote in most constituencies. So Labour will not suffer much from any argy-bargy that occurs tomorrow. The Lib Dems could. So there's a danger of Labour being too celebratory and Conservatives looking level-headed. Should be humble and not too self-congratulatory. You have to big yourself up a little bit, though, don't you? Because the other useful thing about by-elections, it gets the public to see that there's a shift, there's a change coming. You know, the last set of by-elections, it was like the Tories retained one of theirs but lost one. That was still a net benefit to Labour. If Labour win Tamworth, for example, and they are going to win Tamworth. If Labour win Tamworth, then again you're showing more momentum. That is a seat, like what? That was another 20,000, roughly 20,000 majority seat, wasn't it? Tamworth. That'll be going. There's two more by-elections coming up in January, and it all worked even without winning mid-Bedfordshire. If Labour even run it close, that's the thing. Labour don't even have to win it. if they even get within a few hundred votes of it, then it's like that is the Tories' 33rd safest seat, and we ran them close with the Lib Dems snapping at our heels. Imagine what we're going to be like in the general election. So the public then see like momentum for a Labour government, and people are sheeple. There's a lot of people, you know, sort of vote based on what they think the country's voting for. They're sort of like, you know, quite conformist. So is Boris Johnson still a party member? Yeah, no, they didn't expel him. They didn't even remove the whip. Boris Johnson just resigned his seat in Parliament. He's still a Conservative Party member. He's just sulking in his big old mansion, killing newts. What's Graham Brady good for? He's supposed to keep control of the Tory party behaviour. No, he's not. That's not his job. Him and the Chief Whip, Simon Hart, they're a mess too. Now, to be fair, Graham Brady does it. Graham Brady, his job is to make sure that the whips understand what backbench feeling is. It's not his job to keep MPs in line. It is his job to be the spokesperson for MPs. He's like the union rep for backbench MPs, Tory MPs. Graham Brady actually, you know, for all his faults, I will say actually does a very good job of chair of the 1922 committee, because ultimately what he has to do is he has to have the respect of his MPs in his party, which he does, you know. So no, it's not his. It's the whip's job to keep for discipline, party discipline. It's not Brady's job at all. He's a backbencher. Labour need to take Chingford. Well, I don't know, but there we go. Going to kiss the ground when the Tories get kicked out. Well, you might want to check what's on that ground. It's not even safe to go into the rivers right now. What do you think the roads are like? I got a friend who votes like that. He likes to back a winner. Okay, well, I wasn't even talking about people who consciously do it, but there's a lot of people who subconsciously, if they think that there's lots of people going to vote Labour at the next election, that we want a Labour government, they will just think that themselves. So it's really important that Labour make a big show of the fact that the country wants a Labour government, because it's that perception that helps. The perception helps. And that's why these by-elections are really good. They don't change anything in Parliament now. It's all about perception. It's about getting voters to see that actually a Labour government's coming and that you want a Labour government. And it's putting pressure on the Tories to do something stupid, because there are Tory MPs, even if they don't care about the party, and there's plenty who do want their party to win the election, they at least want to win their seat. And at the moment, the majority of Tory MPs are going to lose their seat. That is what polling would suggest at the moment. So, you know, they've got a vested interest in, if they think it's possible to win the next election, getting a leader who'll do it. And if Sunak loses both of these by-elections, it's impossible to suggest he's on a course for winning the next election, no matter when it is. Impossible. If he loses Tamworth, but not mid-Bedfordshire, it depends how much copium there is in the Tory party. Because even losing Tamworth should be bad, because that had a large majority at the last election. If Sunak cannot hold Tamworth, and even MRP polling would suggest he won't hold it even in the general. This isn't like one that's just because it's a by-election. The suggestion is they won't win it in the general election either. If they cannot even hold Tamworth, they cannot win. So even losing Tamworth and retaining mid-Bedfordshire should be a problem for Sunak. And losing Tamworth, let's say it's like a Selby thing. Let's say Labour win Tamworth by about 4,000 votes again, and the Tories win mid-Bedfordshire, but only by a few hundred votes, like an Uxbridge type situation. I think Tory MPs will think that's not good enough. I think they'll be thinking we're on to a loser here. Because at the moment, Rishi Sunak is announcing very unpopular policies, unpopular amongst Conservatives, and it's not working. Like with Labour, Starmer's also announced a few unpopular policies, not as riotously unpopular as some of Sunak's. But there's a few that are unpopular with the party, but it's like, yeah, but we're going to win. So you sort of take it as a price, because the vast majority of the policies are absolutely fine. Whereas Sunak's not doing that. He's like, is offering chaos. Like everything's going wrong. Even his pledges are going wrong now. Like inflation, there's now a good chance he's not going to hit that, because we know that inflation remained sticky in this month's reporting. That would be, would that be August results? I can't remember. But the inflation's remained where it was. And because of the war now in the Middle East, oil prices will be going up. Well, that will mean fuel prices are going to carry on going up again. So that's going to keep inflation higher. So unless Sunak does something radical, like, you know, taxing oil companies properly and using that to reduce the cost of energy, he's not going to meet his inflation target, and all the other targets are gone. So at the end of this year, his pledges are dead and buried. His new plans are dead and buried because they're so unpopular. And they'll have, the best case scenario for the Tories is they win Mid Bedfordshire by a small margin. And then in the new year, lose 2 more by-elections, because then you've got Scott Benton's, I know it hasn't been confirmed yet, but it is going to be. So January, February, we're going to have Blackpool South, Labour winning that easy. And then you've got Wellingborough, Peter Bone's seat, another Tamworth, but it's easier for Labour to win than Tamworth. So if Labour have won Selby and Ainsty, which they have, and if they win Tamworth, which I'm telling you they're going to, I'm going to look silly tomorrow if not, but I'm telling you they're going to, they're going to win Wellingborough. So there'll be 2 more by-elections coming up that Labour also win. I just can't see how Sunak can last until all this talk about autumn election next year, I can't see how Sunak lasts. He's going to limp on to have the election in May. I cannot see it go beyond then. It seems impossible. Vendetta saying there, when you do nothing, don't be surprised when nothing changes. Exactly. Well, should we leave it with those thoughts as well? Precisely it. It's like the sign of madness, isn't it? Doing the same thing and expecting different results. Final comment. The arrogant reply to our general election petition tells me Sunak is hanging on for dear life. He'll only have an early general election where the party implodes, which looks likely. Yeah, I think the party could well implode. If Labour, see, it is quite binary in a way. Like, you should look at it. If Labour narrowly lose out on Mid Bedfordshire, it should be a case of, well, it's as bad as a loss because bloody hell, this is like one of our safest seats. But it is quite binary. They'll be quite pleased that they still won it. But if Labour win it, even if it's only by 1 vote with 3 recounts, then that's really bad news. Incredibly bad news for them. But there we go. Yes, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Check out the Patreon details if you're interested in the description below. Have a good day. If you live in Tamworth or Mid Bedfordshire, take your photo ID and vote, please. And for the rest of you, get some popcorn in, because I have a sneaking suspicion you may need it tomorrow. But have a good day, everyone. And until next time, I will see you later.